Today, we're plunged into something that honestly sounds like sci-fi, but it's very real. We're talking about China's digital army.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic.
You sent over a really interesting stack of sources, and our mission today is basically to unpack what this is, this, highly sophisticated capability, what's its purpose, its doctrine, and how's it changing the game.
Well, what's really striking is that we're not talking about soldiers on the ground in the traditional sense, not primarily anyway.
Right.
It's fundamentally an information-centric approach to conflict. Our sources point to two key doctrines here. First, there's informatized warfare.
Okay.
That's using advanced battlefield networks, cyber capability, sensors, that sort of thing. But then there's the next step, intelligentized warfare.
Intelligentized. That sounds significant.
It is. This is where AI really comes into play. We're talking AI-driven drones, robotic systems potentially taking direct combat roles, with AI making tactical calls, and human soldiers becoming more like AI coordinators. They're explicitly trying to skip generations of technology with this push.
Okay, skipping generations, that's a huge ambition. So why? Why this massive focus? What's the driver behind building this digital army?
That's a great question. It gets right to their strategic thinking. The sources suggest the U.S. performance in the Gulf War was a huge wake-up call for them.
Ah, okay. A long-term reaction then.
Exactly. A long-term commitment, really.
Right.
And it fits perfectly with Sun Tzu, the idea of winning without fighting. Their goals here are layered.
Layered how?
Okay, so first, it's about information dominance. Think command and control warfare. The idea is to blind and deafen the enemy
Blind and deaf, how?
by destroying or jamming their information systems, their satellites, their comms, undermine their decision-making. The ultimate goal, maybe even end a war before it really starts.
Digital knockout blow, essentially, before things get kinetic.
Precisely. Then second, there's the economic and technological espionage.
Right, stealing secrets.
But on an industrial scale. It's systematic cyber espionage to grab intellectual property, slash their own R&D costs. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
They often use private companies, contractors, non-state actors to do the hacking. It obscures the government's hand.
Plausible deniability.
Exactly. Plus, their legal system actually requires civilian tech companies to report software vulnerabilities to the government first, before telling the public, before patching maybe.
Wait, really? So the government gets first crack?
Yeah. It creates this constant feed, this vulnerability pipeline for the state to potentially exploit.
Wow, okay, that's a built-in advantage. How does this connect to influencing people then?
Well, that's the third piece.
Yeah.
Influence operations. They call it the three warfare.
Three warfare.
Public opinion warfare, psychological warfare, and legal warfare or lawfare. It's about shaping perceptions, undermining morale, using legal arguments internationally, all to achieve strategic goals without actually fighting, often in that murky gray zone.
That space below outright conflict.
Yeah.
Got it. And there was a fourth objective? Something about setting up beforehand.
Yes, absolutely crucial. Pre-positioning for conflict. This is maybe the most alarming part for some observers.
How so?
Groups, like the one identified as Salt Typhoon, aren't just spying. They seem to be burrowing deep into critical infrastructure in other countries.
Like what kind of infrastructure?
Power grids, water systems, communications networks, ports. The idea seems to be setting up the ability to cause major disruption or even destruction right at the start of a potential crisis.
So like, if tensions flared over Taiwan, they could flip a switch.
That's the concern, yes. Immediate, widespread disruption as day one capability.
That's pretty chilling. So with all these different, how do they organize it? And what about this secret aspect we talked about?
Good question. Organizationally, they made a big move in 2015, creating the Strategic Support Force, the SSF. It basically pulled together a lot of these space, cyber, and electronic warfare units.
Centralizing things.
Right. But then, just this year, April 2024, they actually dissolved the SSF.
Dissolved it. Why?
It looks less like a step back and more like specialization. They split its functions into three new independent forces. The Aerospace Force, think space, satellites, no satellite, no fight, is their thinking.
Okay.
Then the Cyberspace Force, explicitly treating cyber as a primary battlefield. And the Information Support Force, likely handling things like psychological operations and network defense.
So refining the focus for each domain.
Exactly. Optimizing. And that secret dimension, a huge part of that is civil-military fusion.
How did that work?
Well, the state essentially leverages the entire civilian tech sector. Private IT companies, university researchers, contractors are all potentially part of the effort. Laws require cooperation, giving access to data and systems.
So the line between a civilian tech company and the military gets blurry.
Extremely blurry, deliberately so. It makes it incredibly hard to pinpoint where attacks are coming from or who is truly responsible. They also use sophisticated tactics like living off the land,
Living off the land.
using the target's own legitimate software tools and credentials to move around their network, making the intrusion much harder to detect. It looks like normal activity.
Wow. Stealthy. Okay, so pulling this all together,
Yeah.
what does this mean for you, the listener?
Well, I think this deep dive shows that China's digital army isn't just one thing. It's this comprehensive state-run capability.
Right.
It's designed to achieve their national goals, security, projecting power, using information, technology, psychology, often without ever firing a traditional shot.
Yeah, and for you listening, it means really understanding that modern conflict, modern power, it isn't just tanks and jets anymore. It's this mix of, civilian tech, laws, military strategy.
It really challenges our old ideas about war and peace.
Absolutely.
It really touches on global security, on the very nature of modern conflict, China's digital army. We're going beyond just, standard cyber attacks here. We want to understand this sprawling, highly strategic force.
Right.
And what we're aiming to uncover for you isn't just what they do, but the, frankly, surprising organizational structure, how their capabilities have evolved and how they operate. Some really fascinating tactics there for, deniability and future-proofing their influence.
Precisely. China's military strategy it's profoundly shifted. They see cyberspace not as some add-on, but as a primary battlefield.
A primary battlefield.
Yeah, the goal seems to be preemptive dominance, controlling the information flow. It's moving way beyond traditional warfighting to integrate space, cyber, electronic, and importantly, psychological capabilities. It's a unified digital front.
Okay, so starting at the top, who's really pulling the strings in this elaborate command structure?
Well, ultimate authority rests with the Central Military Commission, the CMC.
Yeah.
That's chaired by Xi Jinping himself.
Okay.
This really ensures the Chinese Communist Party's absolute command over all armed forces. It embodies that principle you hear. The party commands the gun.
So tightly controlled right at the peak. But our sources, they point to a really complex network below that. How does this central command actually, execute things across all these different agencies?
That's a great question. While the strategic command is centralized, the operational execution is very distributed. You've got major players like the People's Liberation Army, the PLA, obviously, the Ministry of State Security, the MSS, that's their main civilian intelligence agency. Then there's the Ministry of Public Security, MPS, handling domestic stuff, and even the Cyberspace Administration of China, the CA.
A lot of players.
A lot. And what's really striking, I think, is the autonomy given to provincial departments and their increasing reliance on, private companies and contractors.
Outsourcing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Outsourcing offensive capabilities.
Yeah.
This helps obscure direct government links, gives them deniability, and lets them scale operations massively.
That blurring of lines, state and private, that's definitely a key takeaway here. So speaking of the PLA, there have been huge reforms recently, right? How has their specific cyber setup changed?
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting, showing the strategic shifts. Back in 2015, the PLA set up the Strategic Support Force, the SSF.
Right, I remember that, centralizing everything.
Centralizing cyberspace, electronic warfare, psychops, all of it. But then, boom, April 2024, the SSF was dissolved.
Dissolved, wow. What does taking apart such a central force actually, signify? What's the thinking?
Well, it doesn't look like just moving boxes around. It seems to be a strategic pivot towards what they call intelligentized warfare, greater specialization.
Okay.
So the SSS functions were basically spun out into 3 new independent arms, and these now report directly to the CMC.
No intermediary layer.
Exactly. You got the PLA Aerospace Force, the Information Support Force, and the big one for our discussion, the People's Liberation Army Cyberspace Force, or PCF. It signals a real commitment to multi-domain dominance.
For specialized direct oversight. So what does this new cyberspace force, the PCF, actually do? Is it purely offensive?
Well, it definitely handles offensive cyber ops, electronic warfare, psychological operations, R&D, all that. But what's just as important, and maybe a bit surprising, is the very explicit focus on defensive resilience.
Ah, defense too.
Yes, that new Information Support Force, the ISF, its job is specifically building resilient networks, ensuring military comms stay up. They even run drills, like repairing fiber optic cables under simulated attack scenarios.
Wow.
It shows a deep investment, not just in being able to attack, but in being able to endure and win a sustained cyber conflict, kind of future-proofing their own digital space.
That dual focus, offense, and resilience, that makes them even more formidable. Okay, let's talk specific units. Names like APT-1 or PUT or Panda might ring a bell for some listeners. Still around?
Those historical units, yeah. Unit 61398, ABT-1, famous for industrial espionage, IP theft.
Right.
And Unit 61486, PLA, which focused on satellite tech. They've most likely been integrated into these newer structures, probably within the PCF.
Makes sense. Their public exposure probably forced them underground a bit more.
Absolutely. Push them towards more clandestine methods, adapting their tradecraft.
And speaking of adapting, the Ministry of State Security, the MSS, they were linked to those huge HA-Evanium attacks on Microsoft Exchange.
That's right. The MSS conducts really extensive cyber espionage, HAFNIM, yes, but also things like the theft of COVID-19 research data.
And they use those contractors we mentioned.
Heavily. What really stands out with the MSS is that significant reliance on private firms, like Shanghai PowerRock was one named. These companies find vulnerabilities, exploit them, then basically sell the information back to the government.
Scale and deniability again.
Exactly. It's classic intelligence tradecraft adapted for the cyber age. Plausible deniability, expanded reach.
Okay, so this brings us right up to a major current concern. Salt Typhoon. What makes this group so different, so worrying?
Salt Typhoon, which is believed to be a PLA cyber unit, seems to be playing a different game than just espionage.
How so?
Since about mid-2021, they've been detected pre-positioning themselves inside U.S. critical infrastructure.
Pre-positioning, meaning?
Meaning getting access before they might need it.
Yeah.
Across communications networks, energy grids, transportation systems, water treatment plants.
Critical stuff.
The most critical stuff.
Yeah.
The objective appears to be setting the stage for disruptive or even destructive cyber attacks if a major crisis erupts, particularly, say, over Taiwan.
And how do they stay hidden doing that?
They use techniques called living off the land, basically using the legitimate tools already built into the target network, standard Windows commands, PowerShell, things system admins use every day.
So they blend in.
Perfectly. It makes them incredibly hard to detect, like a burglar using your own tools against you. They even hijack things like home or small office routers, vulnerable internet devices, to route their traffic and hide their tracks, maintain that persistent access.
That's a genuinely chilling prospect, just lurking inside the systems we rely on every day. Okay, so let's try and bring this all together. Big picture. What are the main implications here? What's the key takeaway from this deep dive?
I think the main takeaway is that China's digital army isn't just one thing. It's a sophisticated, highly adaptable, multi-layered force. You've got that centralized strategic command under the party, but then this decentralized, often outsourced execution that provides deniability. They're rapidly specializing their military cyber teams, like with the PCF, while also, crucially, pouring resources into their own defensive resilience. It makes attributing attacks difficult and the overall threat incredibly complex and dynamic.
So maybe the final question for you, for the listener, is this. How does this complex blend state control, private contractors hiding in plain sight within critical infrastructure, how does that redefine what we traditionally think of as cyber warfare? And maybe more importantly, what does it demand from nations trying to protect their own digital foundations? It really highlights just how fast this global digital landscape keeps evolving. And this isn't just about the usual military hardware, tanks and jets. It feels like a really profound strategic shift. Our sources keep pointing to China's doctrine of intelligentized warfare. It seems like information and, artificial intelligence are becoming the main event, the central battlefields.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's truly fascinating, I think, is how deeply this approach connects back to, ancient military thinking. Sun Tzu's whole emphasis on winning without the big clash of arms. That's kind of the vibe here. It's about hitting the adversary's nervous system, you could say, their command, their intel.
Right, disrupting their ability to think and act. So our mission for you, the listener, is to cut through some of this complexity. We want to reveal the maybe surprising technologies and strategies that are really driving this transformation. So maybe start with the structure. How is China's military adapting at the very top?
Well, at the absolute peak, you've got the Central Military Commission, the CMC. It's highly centralized, and it directly oversees all these digital capabilities. And there was a pretty significant reorganization just recently. They actually dissolved the Strategic Support Force, the SSF. Its functions were basically split into three new distinct arms, all reporting straight to the CMC.
Okay, three new arms.
Yeah, the Cyberspace Force, the Information Support Force, and the Aerospace Force. The whole move seems geared towards greater functional clarity, better interoperability, really honing things for this intelligentized warfare.
That seems incredibly deliberate, very focused. And what about this military-civil fusion, or MCF? Sources describe it as, well, pretty aggressive, not just cooperation.
Oh, it's definitely aggressive. It's a national policy designed specifically to tear down the walls between civilian research, commercial tech, and the military. The goal is basically to harness all the country's tech ecosystems for military advantage.
And that directly fuels their tech capabilities, I assume.
Massively. It leads to some incredibly advanced tools. Take AI, for instance. It's way beyond just battlefield analysis now. We're talking AI-driven autonomous systems. Think drone swarms designed to just overwhelm defenses. And even those robotic dogs, we've seen them in simulations working alongside soldiers in urban settings.
Wow, robotic dogs. And AI for information warfare, too.
Definitely. Generative AI is huge for disinformation campaigns, creating really convincing deepfakes, other synthetic content, and also for crafting sophisticated phishing attacks against adversaries. It's a powerful tool for that.
So it's this completely integrated digital intelligence network pulling from all these advanced frontiers.
Exactly right. And another critical area feeding this is quantum computing. We're seeing real advancements in things like quantum sensing. The potential there is, for example, locating submarines without needing satellites, plus the development of quantum communications aiming for theoretically unbreakable data transmission. Secure C2 is vital.
Unbreakable comms, wow. And does this digital reach blend with their known surveillance capabilities?
Absolutely. It all gets integrated. Think about the vast civilian mass surveillance data, like from projects like Skynet, over 700 million cameras. That data gets folded into military and security intelligence. It allows for incredibly sophisticated targeting.
And this reach logically extends upwards, too, into space. What's the play there?
Space is completely critical. China's satellite presence just in the last decade has jumped something like 620%, especially ISR SAT's intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. But crucially, they're also developing anti-satellite capabilities, ASAT weapons, very aggressive.
ISATs, right. What kind are we talking about?
It's a mix. Kinetic kill vehicles, co-orbital systems, satellites that can sidle up to others, plus lasers, jammers. The stated aim is pretty blunt, blinding and deafening the enemy in a conflict. It fundamentally changes modern warfare if you could do that.
Okay, so you have this advanced tech, this structure. How does it translate into like an operational playbook? What are they doing with it?
Well, in cyber warfare, we're seeing a definite shift. It's less about just espionage now and more about pre-positioning, placing cyber capabilities inside critical infrastructure around the world. Think of the Salt Typhoon incidents, targeting U.S. communications, energy, transport sectors. The idea seems to be readiness for disruptive, maybe even destructive attacks if a crisis hits.
And that ties into their broader three warfares doctrine, doesn't it? The psychological public opinion side.
It fits perfectly. That doctrine, public opinion, psychological, and legal warfare, we see it used, for example, in the South China Sea context. And tools like AI and deepfakes just massively escalate the potential scale and, frankly, the sophistication of these campaigns. The aim is to shape global views, undermine trust, discredit democratic processes. It's a whole integrated multi-domain challenge.
It really hammers home how information itself, perception, is becoming maybe the primary battlefield.
That's the core of it. And interestingly, you even see some concerns bubbling up internally among Chinese defense thinkers, apparently. Worries that this push into AI autonomy could lead to conflicts that escalate, rapidly, uncontrollably, maybe even catastrophically.
So wrapping this up, a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. What does this whole comprehensive strategy really mean for how nations even define conflict anymore? How do you prepare when winning might be more about controlling information and perception than traditional kinetic force?
Looking at China's cyber power, this idea of a secret digital army, what does it mean for, global stability, the economy, and really for you?
Well, it's fundamental to understand that China sees cyberspace as a core battlefield, absolutely central.
Not just a domain, but the domain.
Exactly. They're aiming for what they term informationized warfare. It's about weaving IT into, well, everything military for strategic advantage.
And they have these unique concepts driving it, right? Like military-civil fusion.
Yeah, that and cyber sovereignty, their idea of total control over their digital space.
Okay, so let's unpack that first one. Military-civil fusion. What does that actually look like?
It's essentially a state mandate. You have these huge private tech firms, Huawei, Alibaba, Tencent.
Big names.
The big ones, yeah. They're required to collaborate with the military. It's not just getting more hackers.
It's systemic.
It is. It deliberately blurs the lines. You get this huge interconnected web of operators, much harder to track than, say, a traditional military unit.
And it makes attribution really difficult. Trying to figure out who did what.
Extremely difficult. Is it the state? Is it a patriotic hacker working with tacit approval? Is it a contracted private firm? It creates strategic ambiguity.
And there's more, isn't there? Something about software vulnerability.
Oh, yes. That's quite concerning. Civilian companies must report software flaws, vulnerabilities directly to the state.
Before telling the software vendor. Or the public.
Before anyone else. So the state gets first dibs. This helps them build up a massive arsenal of zero-day exploits.
Flaws that nobody else knows about yet.
Exactly. It gives them a huge asymmetric advantage because they operate with, let's say, fewer self-imposed ethical constraints than some other nations.
Which leads us to this next kind of alarming development. This isn't just spying or IP theft anymore, is it?
No, it's evolved. We're seeing groups like Salt Typhoon. They're doing what's called pre-positioning, meaning they're embedding themselves deep inside critical infrastructure networks. Quietly.
Critical infrastructure. So
Yeah.
communications, power grids.
Communications, energy, water systems, transportation hubs, the lifelines of a modern society.
But not attacking immediately.
Oh.
Sitting there.
Waiting. It's about enabling future sabotage,
Right.
the capability to disrupt, potentially paralyze these systems during a crisis.
So for you listening, imagine the chaos if the power grid went down or communications failed, not because of a storm, but a hidden digital actor.
It's a major paradigm shift from espionage, which is bad enough, to actively holding critical infrastructure hostage.
Creating a potential digital blockade.
Precisely. Or delaying a military response, maybe in a scenario involving Taiwan. The potential economic damage is staggering. Projections hit, what, $10.5 trillion globally by 2025.
Wow. Okay, and beyond the infrastructure threat, there's the whole influence side too, shaping what people see online.
Absolutely. Billions are being invested there. Disinformation, social media manipulation. It's extensive.
How are they getting, well, better at it?
AI is the big game changer here. We're seeing more AI-generated content.
Like deepfakes.
Deepfakes, yes, but also AI voice cloning, sophisticated AI chatbots. It makes the fake stuff look and sound much more real, more authentic.
Wasn't there an example in Taiwan recently?
There was. January 2024 election. They used AI-generated audio, faking a political endorsement. First time we've seen a nation-state confirmed using AI like that to directly try and sway a foreign election.
Yeah, it's a new frontier, a dangerous one.
It really is. It forces defenders into a situation where you almost have to fight AI with AI.
So putting it all together,
Yeah.
where does China actually stand now? Are they the top cyber power or still catching up?
It's nuanced. The U.S. probably still holds an overall edge in capability, breadth, and depth. But China is closing that gap incredibly fast, especially in areas like this infrastructure pre-positioning and their use of AI for influence ops, their integrated approach, the sheer scale. It's a formidable near-peer challenge, no question.
So this deep dive really shows China's secret digital army isn't just some sci-fi concept. It's real, sophisticated, integrated.
And evolving very quickly. It's impacting global stability, economies, even, our perception of reality online.
What's next then? What does the future look like?
I think we're looking at an accelerating AI arms race in cyberspace. The Internet of Things, all those connected devices becomes a huge, vulnerable attack surface.
More things to hack.
Many more. And we'll continue this difficult, maybe elusive search for effective international rules for cyber norms, constant vigilance, constant adaptation. That's the baseline now.
Which brings it back to you, our listener. Thinking about these advanced strategies, this shifting landscape,
Yeah.
how might it make us reconsider our own digital habits, our priorities for staying secure and resilient? Something to definitely think about.